Good morning, year 3 and 4. I'm just coming on to do the next part of our story. If you remember yesterday, Harry had been at Ollivander's getting his special wand, and he's found out that his has got a link to Voldemort's wand as well, which is really interesting. Okay, so the late afternoon sun hung low in the sky as Harry and Hagrid made their way back down Diagon Alley, back through the wall, back through the leaky cauldron, now empty. Harry didn't speak at all as they walked down the road. He didn't even notice how many people were gawping at them on the underground, laden as they were with funny-shaped packages with the sleeping little snowy owl on Harry's lap. Up another escalator, out into Paddington Station. Harry only realised where they were when Hagrid tapped him on the shoulder. "Got time for a bite to eat before your train leaves," he said. He bought Harry a hamburger and they sat down on the plastic seats to eat them. Harry kept looking around. Everything looked so strange somehow. "You all right, Harry? You're very quiet." Harry wasn't really sure that he could explain. He just had the best birthday of his life, and yet he chewed his hamburger, trying to find the words. "Everyone thinks I'm special," he said at last. "All those people in the leaky cauldron. Professor Quirrell, Mr. Ollivander. But I don't know anything about magic at all. How can they expect great things from me? I'm famous and I can't even remember what I'm famous for. I don't know what happened when the night my parents died." Hagrid leant across the table. Behind the wild beard and eyebrows he had a very kind smile. "Don't you worry, Harry. You'll learn so fast. Everyone starts at the beginning at Hogwarts and you'll be fine. Just be yourself. I know it's hard." "Yeah, I've been singled out and that's always hard. But yeah, I'll have a great time at Hogwarts and I did. Still do, as a matter of fact." Hagrid helped Harry on the train and that would take him back to the Dursleys, then handed him an envelope. "That's your ticket for Hogwarts," he said. "1st of September, King's Cross Station. It's all on the ticket. Any problems with the Dursleys, send me a letter with your owl. She'll know where to find me. See you soon, Harry." The train pulled out of the station, and Harry wanted to watch Hagrid until he was out of sight. He rose in his seat and pressed his nose against the window, but he blinked, and Hagrid had gone. And we're on the next one now. The journey from platform 9 3/4. Harry's last month with the Dursleys wasn't fun. True, Dudley was now scared of Harry. He wouldn't stay in the same room, while Aunt Petunia and Uncle Vernon didn't shut Harry in the cupboard, force him to do anything, or shout at him. In fact, they didn't speak to him at all. Half terrified, half furious, they acted as though any chair with Harry in it was empty, although this was an improvement in many ways, and it did become a bit depressing after a while. Harry kept to his room with his new owl for company. He decided to call her Hedwig, a name he'd found in the history of magic. His school books were very interesting. He lay on his bed reading late in the night, and Hedwig swooping in and out of the open window as she pleased. It was lucky that Aunt Petunia didn't come in Hoover anymore, because Hedwig kept bringing back dead mice every night before he went to sleep. Harry ticked off another day on the piece of paper he had pinned on the wall, just counting down those days to September the 1st. On the last day of August, he thought he'd better speak to his aunt and uncle about getting to King's Cross Station the next day. So he went down to the living room where they were watching a quiz show on the television. He cleared his throat to them to let him know that he was there, and Dudley screamed and ran out the room. Uncle Vernon grunted to show that he was listening. "I need to be at King's Cross tomorrow to go to Hogwarts." Uncle Vernon grunted again. "Would it be all right if you gave me a lift?" Grunt. Harry supposed that might have meant a yes. "Thank you." He was about to go back upstairs when Uncle Vernon actually spoke. "Funny way to get you to wizard school. The train. Magic carpets have got punctures, have they?" Harry didn't say anything. "Where is this school anyway?" "I don't know," said Harry, realising this for the first time. He pulled the ticket Hagrid had given him out of his pocket. I just take the train from platform 9 3/4 at 11 o'clock, he read. His aunt and uncle stared. "Platform what?" 9 3/4. "Don't talk rubbish," said Uncle Vernon. "There is no platform 9 3/4. It's on my ticket." barking, said Uncle Vernon, howling mad, the lot of you. You'll see, you just wait. All right, we'll take you to King's Cross. We're going up to London tomorrow anyway, or I wouldn't bother. Why are you going to London? Harry asked, trying to keep things friendly. I'm taking Dudley to the hospital, growled Uncle Vernon. Got to have that ruddy tail removed before he goes to Smeltings. Harry woke at 5 o'clock the next morning, and he was too excited and too nervous to go back to sleep. He got up, pulled on his jeans because he didn't want to walk to the station in his wizard robes. He'd change on the train. He checked his Hogwarts list again to make sure that he had everything he needed, saw that Hedwig was safely shut in a cage, and then he paced the room, waiting for Dudley to get up. 2 hours later, Harry's huge, heavy trunk had been loaded into the Dursleys' car. Aunt Petunia had talked Dudley into sitting next to Harry as they set off. They reached King's Cross at 10:30. Uncle Vernon dumped Harry's trunk on the trolley and wheeled it to the station for him. Harry thought this was strangely kind until Uncle Vernon stopped dead, facing the platforms with a nasty grin on his face. Well, there you are, my boy. Platform 9, platform 10. Your platform should be somewhere in the middle, but they don't seem to have built one yet, do they? He was quite right, of course. There was a big plastic number 9 over one platform and a big plastic number 10 over the other. And in the middle, there was nothing at all. Have a good half term, said Uncle Vernon with an even nastier smile. He left without another word, and Harry turned and saw the Dursleys drive away. All three of them were laughing. Harry's mouth went quite dry. What on earth was he going to do? He was starting to attract a lot of funny looks because of Hedwig. He'd have to ask someone. He stopped a passing guard, but he didn't mention platform 9 3/4. The guard had never heard of Hogwarts, and when Harry couldn't even tell him what part of the country he was in, he started to get annoyed, as though Harry was being stupid on purpose. Getting desperate, Harry asked for the train that left at 11 o'clock, but the guard said there wasn't one. In the end, the guard strode away, muttering about time wasters. Poor Harry. Harry was now trying hard not to panic. According to the large clock on the arrivals board, he'd 10 minutes left to get on this Hogwarts train, and he'd no idea how to do it. He was stranded in the middle of a station with a trunk he could hardly lift, a pocket full of wizard money, and a large owl. Hagrid must have forgotten to tell him something you had to do, like tapping on a third brick to get into Diagon Alley. He wondered if he should get his wand out and start tapping the ticket box between platforms 9 and 10. At that moment, a group of people just passed behind him, and he caught words of what they were saying, packed with muggles, of course. Harry swung round. The speaker was a plump woman who was talking to 4 boys with flaming red hair. Each of them was pushing a trunk like Harry's in front of him, and they had an owl. Heart hammered, Harry pushed the trolley after them. They stopped, and so did he, just near enough to hear what they were saying. Now, what's the platform number? Said the boy's mother. 9 3/4, piped a small girl, also red-headed, who was holding a hand. Mum, can't I go? You're not old enough, Ginny. Now be quiet. All right, Percy, you go first. What looked like the oldest boy marched toward platforms 9 and 10. Harry watched carefully, not to blink in case he missed it. But just as the boy reached the divide between the 2 platforms, a large crowd of tourists came swarming in front of him, and by the time the last rucksack had cleared away, the boy had vanished. Fred, you next, the little plump woman said. I'm not Fred, I'm George, said the boy. Honestly, woman, call yourself a mother. Can't you tell I'm George? Sorry, George, dear. Only joking, I am Fred, said the boy, and off he went. His twin called after him to hurry up, and he must have done, because a second later, he'd gone. But now, how had he done it? The third brother was walking briskly towards the ticket barrier. He was almost there, and then quite suddenly, he wasn't anymore. There was nothing else for it. Excuse me, Harry said to the plump woman. Hello, dear, she said. First time at Hogwarts. Ron's new too. She pointed at her last of her youngest sons. He was a tall, thin and gangly with freckles, big hands and feet and a long nose. Yes, said Harry. The thing is, I don't know how to get on the platform, she said kindly, and Harry nodded. Not to worry, she said. All you have to do is walk straight at the barrier between the platforms 9 and 10. Don't stop and don't be scared. You'll crash into it. That's very important. Best to do a bit of a run if you're nervous. Go on. Go now before Ron. Okay, said Harry. He pushed his trolley round and stared at the barrier. It did look very solid. He started to walk towards it. People jostled him on their way to the platforms 9 and 10. Harry walked more quickly. They was going to smash right into that ticket box. Then he'd be in trouble. Leaning forward, his trolley Leaning forward on his trolley, he broke into a heavy run. The barrier was coming nearer and nearer. He wouldn't be able to stop. The trolley was out of control. He was a foot away. He closed his eyes, ready for the crash. It didn't come. He kept on running. He opened his eyes. A scarlet steam train was waiting next to the platform, packed with people. A sign overhead said, Hogwarts Express, 11 o'clock. Harry looked behind him and saw the wrought iron archway where the ticket box had been with the words platform 9 3/4 on it. He'd done it. Smoke from the engines drifted overhead of the chattering crowds, while cats of every colour wound here and there between their legs. Owls hooted to each other in a disgruntled way over the babbling and the scrabbling of heavy trunks. The first few carriages were already packed with students. Some were hanging out of the window to talk to their families. Some were fighting over seats. Harry pushed his trolley off down the platform in search of an empty one. He passed a round face of a boy who was saying, Gran, I've lost my toad again. Oh, Neville, he heard the woman sigh. The boy with dreadlocks was surrounded by a small crowd. Give us a look, Lee. Go on. The boy lifted a lid of a box in his arm. The people looked around him, shrieked and yelled as something poked out a long, hairy leg. Harry pressed on with the crowd until he found an empty compartment near the end of the train. He put Hedwig inside first. Then he started to shove and heave his trunk towards the train door. He tried to lift it up the steps, but he couldn't. He could hardly raise one end, and twice he dropped it nearly painfully on his foot. Want a hand? It was one of the red-haired twins he'd followed through the ticket box. Oh, please, said Harry. Oh, Fred, come here, help. With the twins' help, Harry's trunk was at last tucked away in the corner of the compartment. Thanks, said Harry, pushing his sweaty hair out the way. What's that? Said one of the twins suddenly, pointing at Harry's scar. Blimey, said the other twin. Are you? He is, said the first twin. Aren't you? He added to Harry. What? Said Harry. Harry Potter, chorused the twins. Oh, him, said Harry. Yes, I mean me. The boys gawped at him and Harry felt himself going very red. Then, to his relief, a voice came floating through the door. Fred, George, are you there? Coming, Mum. With a last look at Harry, the twins hopped off the train. Harry sat down next to the window, half hidden. He could watch the red-haired family on the platform, hear what they were saying. Their mother had just taken a handkerchief out of her pocket. Ron, you've got something on your nose. The youngest boy tried to jerk out the way, but she grabbed him and began rubbing at the end of it. Get off, Mum, he wriggled free. Oh, has Ickle Ronnie got something on his nose? Said one of the twins. Shut up, said Ron. Where's Percy? Said his mother. He's coming now. The oldest boy came striding into sight. He'd already changed into his billowing black Hogwarts robes, and Harry noticed a shiny red and gold badge on his chest with the letter P. Can't stay long, Mother, he said. I'm up front. The prefects have got 2 compartments to themselves. Oh, you are a prefect, Percy, said one of the twins, with an air of surprise. You should have said something. We had no idea. Hang on, I think I remember him saying something about it, said the other twin. Once. Or twice. A minute. All summer. Oh, shut up, said Percy. How come Percy gets new robes anyway, said one of the twins. Because he's a prefect, said their mother fondly. All right, dear, we'll have a good term. Send me an owl when you get there. She kissed Percy on the left cheek, and then she turned on the twins. And we will stop there. Okay, have a good day, and I'll carry on tomorrow. Bye.